Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany and this is my new channel, Authentically Tiffany. I created this outlet for myself. I've been on a healing journey for the past year or so, and I created this channel to be more vocal and to start doing a lot more videos. For those of you who follow me on social media, you know I write a lot, so I write what I'm feeling, and anything that I resonate with, I write about. I decided to, take a step out of my comfort zone and start doing videos. I do not do videos. I don't like speaking. It makes me nervous, but, I figure that this is the next step into my healing process. So I created this channel as a healing outlet for myself, if you kind of get what I'm saying here. I am also letting you guys in on that healing process. As I journey along this journey, I invite you to walk with me. I will be speaking my truth on this platform. I will be speaking about my life experiences, everything that I've gone through, everything that I faced in my life. Just everything that's shaped and molded me to become who I am right now. And I'm still transforming to become right now. I'll be talking, a lot about things that people don't really normally speak about. Subjects that may be a little touchy, a little disturbing to a few. But, this is real life, my life, and I'm going to be very open and very transparent and very honest on this channel. For anyone who knows me, you know that I'm a very private person. I don't really speak about my life at all to anyone. So this is very uncomfortable, very hard to do. But I'm taking this leap to do it, to let you guys in and to kind of show you a side of me that no one has ever really seen or heard. I haven't spoken about what I'm going to speak about on this platform to anyone really. I just hope that, you guys can respect how I want to heal in this way, because I know some family members will be bothered by what I have to say, hurt even. But just understand that my intentions are not to make anyone look bad or to have anyone throw any type of negative energy towards anyone. This is solely for my healing purposes, myself, and I just hope you can respect the way I want to do my healing, which is through video, through voice. So with that being said, any one of you guys who watch my videos and feel the need to even leave comments down below, if you can, try and be mindful and respectful, as this is a place of healing for me, a place of release. I just feel the need to be vocal so I can let it out and let go. So any negative comments, not needed. So just be respectful. I'd appreciate it very, very much. So with that being said, I have a lot to say, but before I get started about who I am, what I'm about, I'm going to start this first video off with background on who my parents are and who their parents are. In order to get to know me, you have to know where I come from. So I'll start it there. My parents are from New York, both of them born and raised in the Bronx. My father and his family are Puerto Rican. His family's from Puerto Rico. And my mother's family is Black, African American. Just recently, a couple years ago, my mother found out that her father, that she's always known, is not her biological father. Her biological father is actually Caucasian. But I'll get into that a little later in the video. I'm going to speak about my father right now. So my father, his family, like I said, is from Puerto Rico. My grandmother, I don't know really too much about her. Nothing was really told to me about her life, early childhood, or anything like that. I just know that a story that was told to me was that she had to take care of her siblings at an early age by herself. And I think maybe that was like teenage years or so. I'm not really sure. I'm not really for certain. The stories that were told to me that she was a mean and angry woman. I have never experienced that in my life. The few times that I was in her presence or, was with her as a child, it was just normal grandparent, nothing out of the ordinary. But of course, hearing stories from others about what she has done and who she is, of course, it's totally different than what I've experienced. And that's all I kind of know about my grandmother, her past. My grandfather, his family, is very huge. It's really big. I connected with them on Facebook a few years back after I found them all on Facebook, and I met all of my cousins and uncles, and it was a beautiful experience. I loved it. And my grandfather, his siblings, there's like 8 or 9 of them, and I spoke to my grandfather's brother, my great uncle, and he told me several stories about him and my grandfather growing up in Puerto Rico and their family growing up in Puerto Rico. It's very rare that you get to speak to your family, especially your grandfather's siblings. So I was very happy to be able to even hold conversation with my uncle. So he told me some stories about their father, my great grandfather, and needless to say, these were not good stories. So my great grandfather, he was a very, I don't even know the word to describe this man. He was horrible. He physically and sexually abused his children, the boys and the girls. And my grandfather had 8 or 9 siblings. My grandfather being the darkest of all of them. My great-grandfather didn't think he was his child, so he treated him very badly because of his skin color. He called him all sorts of names and beat him. And a story that was told to me by my uncle was that my great-grandfather took cheese graters and tied them to my grandfather's knees as a young boy and made him kneel outside in the middle of the day in the hot sun for hours and hours and hours on end, and he would not be able to move, like get up. If he moved, he would beat him. So just hearing that story is like, when he told me the story, something that you can't, can you imagine like your child or you just going through something like that? It's unimaginable to me. And the stories get worse, which I am not going to go into detail with those stories right now, or ever. I don't think I will say that right now on this platform. But just know that it's one of the stories that were not so gruesome. So my grandfather had a rough life, and his siblings had a rough life. He eventually met my grandmother, and then they got married and they moved to New father and my uncle. My father is brought into the world with parents who have a background as they do. So you see where I'm going with this. My father had 2 broken legs and had casts on both his legs by the age of 5 or 6 months old, before he could even walk, crawl, or talk. My father was physically abused as a child. He was beaten. He was tied down and beaten. He was beaten for sneezing. He couldn't even sneeze outside of his body like a normal sneeze. He had to keep his sneezes inside of his body, because if he sneezed regularly, he would get beat. To this day, my father still sneezes on the inside. He doesn't sneeze like a normal person would sneeze. My father was also sexually molested as a child. And my mother found this out as my father was arrested on several occasions when I was younger. And the reasoning for his arrest made my mother question if he suffered from sexual abuse as a child, which she did ask his parents, my grandparents, and they did eventually end up admitting that he did, or that he was sexually abused. So, again, the cycle. My father had it rough growing up, and so, it's just, generational curses. It's a cycle. I will stop talking about my father right here. I don't think I want to say any more about his situation until later on when I get into my childhood. So that's my father. My mother now. My mother's family, her father, my grandfather, I don't really know too much about. His father was a black man, but I don't know anything about him. I can't remember if they said that he was like in the Navy, the military, or something like that. I don't know. His mother, my great-grandmother, she was from Guyana, and we would take care of her when we were younger. My mom took care of her. My family didn't want to send her to a nursing home. She suffered from Alzheimer's disease. I remember her coming to the house and we would take care of her. That I do remember. But that's all I know about my grandfather's side of the family. Nothing too extensive at all. My grandmother, my mom's mom, she had a black father and her mother was white and Native American. I don't know too much about her father. Her father is unknown, or just not talked about. My great-grandmother, my grandma's mom, she grew up in Georgia on a reservation because her mother was Native American, and her father was a Caucasian, a white man who owned a plantation in Georgia. And I'm not even sure what happened with that situation. I don't know if he raped my great-grandmother's mom, the Native American, and had her, or whatever situation that was going on. I don't know. I just know she was on a reservation. These are the stories she told my mother. And she had 2 sisters. I think one was like fully Native American, and then the other one also looked Caucasian, white, just like her, with white blonde hair. She was treated very badly on the reservation as well, because she looked white and she had a white father, and the Native Americans would call her a white devil. And she feared for her life on the reservation because of incidents that went down between her sisters. The Native American sister lit the other girl's, her other sister's hair on fire as she slept. And so she ended up running away from the reservation. She was taken in by a black family, and she ended up having a relationship with one of their sons. And she and their son moved to New York, and then she settled there, and then she had 9 children, and my grandmother being one of them. And you know, just like my Puerto Rican side of the family and my mom's side of the family, we all range in different shades of color, from dark brown to fair skin. My mom's side, same thing. So we're all colors we're like all shades of color on both sides of my family. My grandmother and her sisters were very, very beautiful. I mean, like movie star beautiful. They're so pretty. Whenever I get pictures, I'll start to, and get, savvy with my technology here, I'll put pictures up so you guys can see. My grandmother eventually met my grandfather. They married and they had 4 children. My 2 aunts, my mom, and my uncle. My 2 aunts, older sisters of my mom, are like brown skin, and my mom and my uncle are very fair skin. And I don't really know too much about how my mom grew up as far as her treatment from my grandmother and my grandfather. I have never heard of stories of abuse like my father's side of the family, but I'm just going to put it out there that I am assuming that something like that went down in her family. And I'm saying that because as I go along in these videos and tell you about my life, the way we were raised, there's a question of how she was raised, but it's not talked about. When I was 9 years old, my grandmother passed, and at her passing, there was a rumor that came up that my mother had a different father. And this rumor was kind of like an obsession for my mother. She wanted to find who her real father was. She believed it without having any type of proof or real knowledge of it, because my aunts denied it, and which caused a big rift in the family. You know, when that matriarch dies in the family or passes away, they're usually the one that's the glue that holds everyone together, right? So, it was just like that in our family. And then when she passed, our family fell apart. The siblings, my mom and her sisters and brother were always fighting, and with the fights come no talking. And I also should mention that my immediate family were or are Jehovah's Witnesses, and some of them still are. And anyone who knows the Jehovah's Witness religion, to be a part of that religion back then in like the 80s and 90s, you didn't have anybody else outside of that. So we grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses. I was born and raised as Jehovah's Witness, and when I grew up in that religion, all we had was family. We had associates at school and friends in school, but we couldn't associate with them outside of school. It was part of the Jehovah's Witness type thing, and it was part of that religion. Then you were not allowed to associate with anyone that wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. So when our family fell apart, my family, me and my sisters, we were very close to our mom's side of the family. It was all we had. It was our family. So when they fell apart and stopped talking and ripped us away from our cousins, from not speaking to each other, we didn't have anybody. So we felt alone. It affected us because we couldn't speak to our cousins and we couldn't be with our family. So, that was a pretty big deal for us then. So, around maybe I was like maybe 10, had to be like 10 or so. I remember my aunt coming to the house, and she pulled me and my sisters aside, and she said to us that your mom is having an identity crisis. And at that age, I didn't know what that meant. So, she went to explain to me that, your mom doesn't think that her dad is her dad and that she has another father. And your mom doesn't think she's black, she thinks she's white. And I just, I couldn't comprehend that. I'm like, why? My aunt really was telling us, your mom's father is your grandfather. I want to let you know that she's black. We're black. Your family's black. And, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. So fast forward to 2017, my mother finds out that her biological father is actually a white man. She found this out because her side of the family contacted her brother, my uncle, and they found out that this was true. But not only is my mother not my grandfather's daughter, but my uncle is not his either. So my grandmother had 2 children while married to my grandfather from another man. No one knows what was said between my grandmother or grandfather. No one knows if he really knew that these children were not his. No one knows the conversations that were held behind closed doors. All we know is my grandfather had 4 children. He fed, he clothed, he housed, he took care of 4 children. My uncle was a junior. He named his son after him. Those 4 children are his children. My mother went to go meet these new family members of hers, which is understandable. You find out you have, family you've never known about and you want to go meet them. That's understandable. She goes to meet them. Here's where my emotions kick in, which I am not sure is, valid or selfish or what, but this is why I'm doing these videos, so that I can see and that you guys can help me out as well. She comes back and starts, my sister because this father of hers has 2 children by his marriage that he was married to. So he's not alive. My mom went to go meet her 2 sisters and their children. She comes back and starts talking about my sister's this, my sister's this, and then my dad this, my dad this, and my dad that. Okay. But weeks go on with her constantly talking about these people and my dad, and then talking to me and telling me, oh, your grandfather did. That still annoys me. To me, that's not my grandfather. That's not my grandfather. I don't know these people. And for her to come back and act like she knows this guy and call him her dad, and like she has so much love for him. You never knew him. Nor did he even get to know you or my uncle. And y'all lived in the same state. I don't know. I get very bothered by the conversations. My grandfather, when she tells me that's my grandfather, it's not my grandfather. My grandfather is my grandfather, the one that watched me when you went to work. My grandfather is the one who used to come by in the morning sometimes before we went to school. My grandfather is the grandfather I held his hand as he was dying on his deathbed of cancer in excruciating pain. That's my grandfather. So for my mother to constantly talk to my sisters and I about this family of hers, and seem like she's so like these people, like she loves these people, or these people she's been missing. It makes me angry. I have anger because you discarded your family. You haven't talked to them in years. You cut them off, even though they may have cut you off as well. But still, these were the people that you grew up with, that you knew every single day. But you can't make amends with your own family. But then you take in these people that you don't know and end up falling out with them as well. Yes, she fell out with them and had a big old fight with them as well. But these people are like, and I hate to say these people, but I don't know these people, nor do I care to know them. I'm going to be very open and honest. I don't care to know them. It is not in my interest to. I have anger towards the situation, so I'm not gonna keep speaking on it right now. I'll get into it a little later, a little more into next videos. But yes, so this is my family. My mother, my father, my grandparents' background. No, it's not pretty. And I'm putting it out there in the open just so you guys, now you know where this will be headed. So for any of you guys who have gone through or who have suffered at the hands of an abuser or who have suffered traumatic abuse in your life, just know that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You don't always have to stay in the darkness, because it's a very dark space that it puts you in. But you can come out. And this is the reason why I'm doing these videos, so that you can see that you can come out. Peace, love, and light.